Hey, good morning, good morning. I am actually live from Norfolk. The beautiful thing about having these coffee and chats on the last Saturday of each month is that they are very informal and they are very relaxed, and it is a chance for me to meet some of the ArtCan artists and delve into their practice, and we just wanted it to be nice and relaxed. So actually they are here and joining. So we are joined today by Susan and Shelly. Oh, this is so good. Right, let's try Shelly and Susan. Oh, good morning, good morning.
Hi.
Just trying to get Susan online. I know she's following, but Susan, can you request to join? Because that's the easiest way, because I can't now find you. Oh, hang on. There is a way I could do this. Give me a moment. Invite to join. Susan. Yay, there we go. Right, that should hopefully... Hello, no volume. There should be. Let's give it a go, if it works or not. You've been recently travelling, haven't you, Shelly? Yeah, oh, Susan, good morning. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's very faint. I can hear you.
Okay,
that's good.
Brilliant. Well, we'll be, I don't know what the word is. We'll just hopefully get through it and it'll be brilliant. Shelly, can you hear us? Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine here.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, good morning and thank you so much for joining me on my April coffee and chat. I can't quite believe that it's beginning of May on Monday, which is just this year is nuts. But anyway, so for anybody who's joining freshly, this is my monthly chat with some ArtCan artists, a chance to find out about their practice, what their inspirations are and medium, and also why they are part of ArtCan. And then at the end of the chat, they get to ask me a curveball question, and I have no idea what those questions are, which is always quite entertaining and puts me totally on the spot. So that'll be fun. But anyway, good morning. Both Shelly and Susan are here today. Maybe Shelly, we could start with you. Give us a brief intro of who you are, and also when did you join ArtCan and why?
Yeah, so basically I'm South African, but I've been living in London for like over 20 years. Throughout my life, I've always practiced art, mainly on a self-taught kind of basis. And I think mainly because I am self-taught, I don't really have that like group of peers, like, you know, when you study it formally, like after school. I did do it at school, but never after school. And I think I just was feeling increasingly like isolated, and it's quite lonely. So that was the main reason, for a sense of community and collaboration, and also to participate like in your calendar of exhibitions. That's very attractive.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice to have people like to ask questions to, you know, like it's so nice the way when people get stuck, they can just send a message on the group and somebody answers. There's a lot of experience like, between all the artists. So I think, yeah, those are the main reasons why I joined.
I think a lot of artists actually join ArtCan for exactly those same reasons. And then I think I've mentioned this on previous chats, that suddenly you then realize you've got access to a knowledge base that you didn't realize was actually going to be part of the membership. And then you're able to tap into everybody else's experiences and sort of research and understanding and tips and tricks. And it's, I love the fact that that's quite organic too. It's not, we didn't formalize that as a part of what the membership is, because it's just evolved just beautifully because of everybody that's been part of it. So that's really nice to hear. And Susan, same question to you. When did you join ArtCan and why?
Yeah, much the same. It's really important to share insights and work with other artists. I think the problem is you can be isolated, and something as positive as ArtCan, which is quite unique, I think, from my research, is very good. It's positive, and you make sure you feel good about being an artist, which you need to these days, actually. It's pretty tough.
I couldn't agree more. It's it feels like we're constantly battling against the expectation that the business aspect of society is what needs so much sort of, you know, focus on and attention and money, forgetting that actually the creative slice of society is what actually keeps everybody ticking and feeling human, because that is everything from picking up a book and looking at the front cover to, you know, a TV show, to being able to just stop the world and get off in your own creative practice or process, whatever that might be. And yeah, so it's one of my little passions that we will always try and keep that strain of society as strong and loud as possible. So thank you for both being part of that. But it does lead me very nicely on to the next question, which is actually, we'll stay with you, Susan, if that's all right, about your medium, your processes and your sort of practice and your inspiration as an artist. Can you share that for us?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Started with textiles, but I got involved in feminist practice in the 70s, because I'm, you know, that age group, and it was a time when there were a lot of collective activities. Artists just joined other artists and put on exhibitions. It was quite easy to do that at that time. Not sure why. It was part of the political movement, I think. So then I led on to doing different things, and actually organizing exhibitions wasn't too difficult either. So that just happened naturally.
Yeah.
And then I went on to train in textiles, and I was more fine art based really, and that was the issue. And then I went to do an MA that was very sustainably based, and I'm not particularly, so that was a sharp learning curve. And since then, I've really concentrated on digital work, which is, I might be moving away from that again. I tend to go through different phases, but photography, painting, digital, it's a bit of a mixture, but I like to keep my options open, and printmaking recently is quite important for me, so I'm going from textiles to fine art to printmaking. And I love using paint. I still like paint. I did some work with using natural dyes and pigments for paint, which I thought was quite interesting, and I'm very interested in developing that in some way, becoming more sustainable. So that's where I'm aiming for.
Brilliant. And are there any sort of themes or inspirations behind the processes?
Yeah. Well, recently I lived in Lincolnshire Coast. I've moved to Newark now, but that's quite different, Lincolnshire Coast. And there are a lot of issues to do with building and changes and landscape, and quite, I suppose, political things that people were not happy about, to do with nuclear power and all that sort of thing, which I sort of was on the fringe of that, and I met someone there and became interested, and there might be something coming up to do with pathways of change, it's called. Someone is organising that from the Lincolnshire Coast, and I like to be part of something which is to do with change and issues, and thinking, you know, you can make a difference as an artist. Although I'm not political in the sense that I go out, you know, marches and things, but I think art can be an important medium for that. And so I like to keep a balance and involve in myself in that way as well as my own work.
Nice. I think there's an accessibility with art as well, that means that you can explore sort of topics and themes, and even sort of address personal sort of political sort of stances or conversations that you're trying to sort of address and understand yourself through the medium of art, which then, like I say, it is accessible to other people who are looking and watching, and it just means that it's a positive way of exploring those conversations. And that is the beauty of the medium of art as well, to be honest. It is accessible in that way, because it's very visual. It's a visual language, as opposed to it being something that needs that sort of translation that often words do, or so it becomes more accessible. So thank you for sharing that. Shelly, shall we have the same question for you, please? Materials, processes, practices, inspiration.
Okay.
Share.
Okay, so So basically, as I said before, like I'm self-taught. So everything I've taught myself is through processes of experimentation.
Yeah.
I began in the early days purely like in oil paints, and then I moved to a more mixed media approach. But like right now, for the last few years, I've been working with a very tricky combination of glitter and automotive paint, which
Wow.
I spray using a spray gun. It's a lot of like automotive techniques. And so, I mean, the way I do this is I always start completely like from scratch. Like I need to like stretch my own canvas. I even select whether I'm going to work on raw cotton or linen. And then I've even had to learn how to prime that in a way that it doesn't buckle when I put layers of glue on it.
Yeah.
Because it used to like make waves, and I've had to go through so much like process to understand like how to do it. So then once I've finished kind of priming, and then I encrust the canvas with glitter, which is normally either like white, gold or silver. I then go through the process of applying the color. And the reason I use automotive paint is because it's very translucent, so it allows the glitter like to shine through, but it's also very highly pigmented. And then it's really when these two things fuse together, the glitter and the paint, that I get this surface of shimmering color. And that's really the foundation of most of my paintings. And then what used to happen is working with all these materials together made like a lot of my canvases were very flawed. So I would have to scrap it, which is why I also learned how to like stretch my own canvas. But I landed up with so many of these discarded like paintings. But actually they had beautiful gradients of color. So one day I was like, I cut them into strips, and maybe a few months later, you know, these strips were in my studio for so long. One day I just started weaving them.
Oh.
So basically a lot of my paintings were an act of repurposing, because I could never like, you know, all those materials, all that labor, I would never just like throw it away. So I found a way of like repurposing some of those works. And so that developed a whole other segue of my work, like into like weaving and fringing, which is always a relief, because I think as an artist, when you start a painting and you think like if you feel you can mess it up, it like really holds you back. But I think in a way I know even if I mess it up, I can make something else of it.
Yeah.
So that kind of like really freed me up.
Yeah.
And then those works are far more like three-dimensional, and that's another thing about my work. Like you need to really see it in person. Like it's so hard to photograph. And I think like that's my work, and my main inspiration. I find a lot of inspiration in the process itself,
Yeah.
because I think being creative and making work gives me such a deep sense of purpose, like in my life. And that really gives me like a lot of like inner peace, like to find the thing that makes you happy and that you can spend hours doing and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And I think
exactly.
that really gets translated in my work. A lot of people say the work makes me happy, or it's so calming to look at. And there's something about the surface is quite mesmerizing, like with the color, the way it looks different from every viewing angle. And then also in the process itself, I think I get a lot of inspiration, because I learn so much with each painting, which I then can apply like to my next painting. And even when I'm working on one work, I get ideas for the next piece.
Yeah.
And then in terms of more inspiration, it's like, because I'm so drawn to color, it's always just the environment around me. Like even driving my daughter to school every day, we pass the heath, I look at the trees, the colors. I also love fashion. I'll walk in the shop, I'll take a photograph of anything I like. My camera roll is just full of like inspiration of colors, a lot of color combinations, textures. Those are the things that interest me. And yeah, that's the summation of my work.
So it feels that your works and the visual nature of your works are very immersive, because as you say, you have to be there to actually see the depth, the construction of them to some extent, and also the sort of story behind it. It's very physical. So you are then, even though they're sort of 2D to some extent, so that sort of immersive nature of your work is then absolutely reflected into what your inspiration is, just basically you being immersed in your own sort of the world that you are inhabiting and being part of. And so that there's a real sort of, it feels like there's a real natural progression with that sort of conversation that you're having with your own creative process, which is really lovely. Really lovely. Oh, how nice, how nice. I was question that did sort of pop over my head, and this is something I've been thinking about my own work too, and that is the longevity of it, and it's sort of making sure that it's finished to the point that it then has its lifespan, because everything has a lifespan. But then as a painting, and obviously you look at historical paintings that are then sort of restored and are absolutely amazing, so with that vibrancy and that finish, I don't know if there's more that I should be doing to explore how my works could then still be as vibrant and brilliant and wonderful in sort of, 600 years time. There's no answer expected to this. It was just interesting. It popped into my head that sort of you are very careful with the way that you're repurposing things and making it actually have this sort of solid living environment again for that particular piece. So then we just need that to make sure that that stays. So
I think like for me it's important that I work with like really good materials. I spend a lot of time researching like what to use, where to get it from, and I try and experiment. I mean, so much stuff that I do doesn't work out, but I learn a lot like from it. And then I think also like I spray my work a lot like with a really good like varnish. Which I hope will add to its longevity, and I'm very careful about how I layer my work. It is something I do think about.
I think sort of, and textile works as well, especially because thread is sometimes so fragile. So Susan, do you sort of explore, but then you've almost moved into the or actually exploring at the moment because everything changes and evolves, but the digital side of things, obviously, as long as the cloud or as long as the Wi-Fi is around, then I suppose that is something that holds it very true and very real.
Yeah, I don't like to lose track, and I'm always worried about this development of digital work and not being involved in making, and that's something I did have to confront when I was doing my MA. Although I did a weaving course, so I did weaving. It's too I like neatness a little bit, so things have to be a bit ordered, and I find using weaving it too loose, or I'm not technical enough, so I couldn't find a sort of way through that.
I think we've frozen.
And things, and I think thread is essential because it's all to do with women's work and women's art actually. So I think it's very important. I'd like to bring it more into my work. I mean, I did print on natural fabrics. That's one thing I've done, and I've used a lot of tapes, but they're very plastic, and that's because of my interest in making a statement about consumerism and the way tape has different meanings in that respect, but never really with natural fibers. I don't know. I value it.
I think we're all so much more aware of, obviously the current sort of climate and situations and steps that we. Oh, actually, we're going to be doing a series of green chats about sort of life hacks, because I think every single artist I know has found something that they are doing which is sort of bucking the plastic trend or something that they're doing within their works. And then we've got a few of our artists who ensure that their acrylic sort of leftover water is strained, filtered, and so that none of the sort of plastic from acrylic paints is sort of going back into the world or into the system. So we're going to be doing a series of chats about that, because I think we can all continue to learn, and this is an evolving conversation anyway, isn't it? We are all having to rapidly move the way that we are working, and I think that comes through to us as creatives as well. We are often much more grounded in the material aspect of what we're working with, because it is a very tangible, it's something that we are working with. So it's sort of like it's kind of like, if we can keep sharing what we're learning, then that could only be a positive as well. So sorry, go on, Susan.
Somehow easier in textiles to be sustainable, because it's very much a central issue about circular design and things like that. In fine art, it's finding the right mixing pigments and things, isn't it? And finding resources to do that.
Yeah,
I've tried it. I quite like it. So I'm looking at that as well. You know, I'm not letting go of it, for sure.
Brilliant. So let's move on to the next question, which is about what you're currently up to, if you're part of any exhibitions at the moment, and what's next for you both. So Shelley, should we start with you?
Yeah, actually, currently I'm participating in the alchemical ArtCan exhibition.
How serendipitous
actually,
this was not planned, anybody. It happened to coincide.
Yeah, I got a picture of painting straight after this.
Oh.
But basically, it's quite suitable because it deals with alchemy, which is a lot in my process, the way I transform things and the impact the glitter has on the color. Is like there's a lot of like a chemical reaction that's not foreseen. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to carry on with what I'm doing. So first of all, obviously, I want to participate in more ArtCan exhibitions. I am going to carry on with all my open core applications because my hit rate is definitely improving.
Brilliant.
And I work with also an agent, a curator. I'm also looking for interior designers because I kind of want to get more commissions on board. I've currently been doing commissions. And yeah, I think in the more immediate future, I've got a new idea for my work, and I kind of need to spend a bit of time experimenting to see if it's going to work and if I can incorporate it in my paintings. That's basically a process of a soak stain kind of canvas, which I want to intermingle with the glitter, so you get the two different textures.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's going to work, and I have to find out how I'm going to make these paintings that I'm thinking of. So yeah.
Isn't that exciting? It's like the start and the anticipation is so much fun. I mean,
I've
as well.
got so many ideas of what could happen, and I have to see how I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, make sure you share. Do you it's interesting actually on Instagram. Do you share the process or do you just share the finished pieces?
I do, but it's like my process up to now. I mean, I literally have to wear like a mask and like a hat. I mean, it makes so much dust and like a residue in my studio. My studio like doubles up as a spray booth. I cover absolutely everything. I mean, and yeah, so I definitely I do share when I remember to put the camera on.
That's what I was about to say. I always think, oh no, I will do, because I know that people really actually engage with that, and then I suddenly have finished something and gone, oh, I forgot to put the camera on. It's like actually remembering that extra sort of audience sometimes. Well, good luck with good luck with everything. It sounds like a really nice, vibrant, exciting time at the moment. So cool, really nice. Susan, what are you up to at the moment, and what's your plans?
Oh, nice. Well, I've just moved, so I've got a studio and I'm sorting it out. It's taking rather a long time because I've got so many old paintings in there, storage and finding the right way. But it's good to actually have a studio that I can work in instead of just a room in the house, you know. Which
makes a difference, I think. Yeah.
Studio sometimes. So yeah, I'm getting more involved in printmaking. I joined a group in Leicester. They're quite very, very brilliant, actually. So I'm going there when I can. Yeah, I'd like to enter the postcard. I want to do a postcard. That's definite. You know, I'm going to. A few things. You know, there's this pathways of choice, which is to do with the environment in Leicester, not Lincolnshire, sorry, and just putting some work into that. So I just keep going with curator space, and when things come up, I follow it on, really.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no, really nice.
It's all good. I just wish I could get my studio organized.
Well, good luck with that, because I know, but it will be amazing once you do. Then that's your space, and then you can create and explore, and that will be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Brilliant. Good times for both of you. That's really nice. So we're at that time of the chat where you get to ask me a question. So Shelley, let's start with you. What's your question for me?
It's very easy.
Good, thank you.
Don't worry. And I was just saying, like, it's been like the ArtCan 10-year anniversary, which is amazing. It's come a long way. And I was just wondering, what's your main like aspiration for the next 10 years?
The main aspiration for the next 10 years is to be able to maintain the structure and the format that we offer contemporary artists without having to implement sort of too much structure or stricture to what we're actually doing. So at the moment we are non-commission, we are non-profit, we are completely volunteer run, and the membership is free, and that for me just feels like a whole giving back to the world that is so important, especially for some of the reasons we were discussing early on, actually, that we just need to be able to do that, because the more we grow and the bigger amount of artists that we have in our community and in our organization, then the bigger that ripple effect through society. And it has to be a level playing field. I can't justify a membership fee which would then mean that some artists weren't able to engage with what we're offering and what we're able to be part of, because money shouldn't be dictating how fair society is. And that's just something I want to really, really try and maintain. We're going to have to be clever, we're going to have to be flexible, we're going to have to be fundraising, we're going to have to do things differently, but my main aim is that we are able to maintain that and grow with that as our ethos. So yes.
Yeah, it's a tall order. It's a difficult thing to do. Yeah.
But we've done it for 10 years. So why can't we do it for another 10 years? But like I say, we're going to have to figure out ways of being clever. But then we are, because creatives are. We always find ways of doing things that we can think out of the box very easily, and that's actually what's exciting. And that's and a challenge. I always love a challenge, so I'm quite happy to have this as my challenge, but I will need all of the artists and everyone to come along with me on that. It's otherwise I feel very solitary, and that's something I started ArtCan not wanting to be a solitary artist, and also now I don't want to be a solitary business founder and director. It's like we need to be doing this as a team, because then also it's really fulfilling as well for all of us, hopefully.
Good.
Was that an okay answer?
Yeah, and I was just wondering, like, how big do you want to grow? Like right now there's like what, around
we've got 537 artists. We have reduced the window of applications, so actually I think it's closing tomorrow. Sunday. So actually, if you are planning on applying, then getting quick, just so that we are sort of managing how many are coming in each time, more because of the admin behind the scenes for all of that is really quite nuts. So we're being a little bit more realistic with how we can manage that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you will be amazed every time we get new artists coming in. There are new opportunities, there are new openings, there are new directions, there are new countries that we can engage with. So at no point do I want to manage it, but I don't really ever feel that we're going to need to not accept new artists, because also the way that we do our programming means that artists aren't expected to apply for everything. They only apply when they would like to, or if it suits their practice at that time. But at the same time, if they just need like a year to be working but feel that they're still connected to a community, then that's also absolutely fine too. So the ebb and flow of each individual artist is how we can continue to grow, because not everybody needs everything at the same time. So as long as we're keeping a diversity with our program and what we're offering, then actually that should suit at a level for each of the artists as we keep going. But that does mean we have to maintain a level of programming and events. But I think we've got a great team already who are doing some brilliant things. So that I don't have any concern about that. Cool. Okay. Susan, you got 2 questions there. I'm just going to say.
I think that was one of the ones I was sort of, covering in mind. But I just wondered how important it is to, on a cultural, in terms of involving artists from different backgrounds and cultures, to the organisation? Is it
Oh,
one of the key qualities?
yeah, it is. I mean, that's why I want it to be as open as possible. I had a really good meeting a few weeks ago, actually, with a brilliant organisation that we might end up letting them host an exhibition on our virtual gallery. But they did raise a very interesting question, and they work with a lot of artists who actually aren't IT savvy or don't want to be, or don't have access to the internet or sort of Wi-Fi, so wouldn't necessarily be able to engage with the ArtCan program. Which suddenly for me was like, we need to figure out a way of getting around that so that artists who aren't able to or have the successfully be able to get onto our online platform, you know, to apply, could still actually find out about us and be able to engage with what we're doing. And I think that relates back to the fact we've set up some of our regional sort of hubs in the UK, but we're also going to be doing them internationally in countries as well, where local or artists of that sort of region are able to then actually have an ArtCan flyer and go along to local community spaces that do arts work and make sure that those conversations are happening on a more of a ground level as opposed to it being very much online. So we're always looking for collaborators to be able to help us in that journey. I do not want to reinvent any wheels because there's no point. But if there are collaborators out there that we could engage with and actually support and connect with and open up bigger opportunities for different artists with different backgrounds or different, you know, experiences, then that would just be great, because that means we are truly supporting that sort of thread and slice of society that really needs that help and support. But yeah, so this is a call for any organizations out there that are doing work with different diversity backgrounds of creatives, then please get in touch, because we are open for collaborative opportunities. And we do, yes, it is online, but we do have our own virtual gallery, which means that those people who are also do have access to the internet or connected but actually aren't able to leave their homes or their spaces can then still feel that they could get engaged or involved with an exhibition. So there are lots of different tiers and different levels, but if we try and do something across all of those tiers and levels, then at least hopefully someone will then feel that they're able to engage with one of them at least. Is that a good answer?
I think that's the question. That was excellent, yeah. I was just thinking about institution involvement. You know, are they, you know, like the Tate, and are they part of the plan to include, you know, involvement with?
We'd love to. I mean, people always say, "Oh, you're doing things to sort of buck the trend," and actually, or you don't like galleries. And it's like, we actually love galleries. We just want galleries to love us in the same way, so that we can actually do things together collaboratively. And if that then sort of built itself up to some of the big institutions that are already got a voice and are very strong in how they represent things, then that would be, it would be brilliant, and it would probably transport us to a different level again, which would just be brilliant, but not at the detriment of us being able to maintain our ethos. And yeah, there are some institutions who have had very dodgy funding and still having funding from very interesting places, and you know, so I think we have to be careful as to who we are seen to be collaborating with and who we're supporting as well. So everything would be taken, I'm not just going to jump straight in because it happens to be a name, so let's you know, but we are absolutely open for like-minded organizations. It just means that ripple effect's even bigger. It'd be brilliant. Oh, how fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's absolutely brilliant. And good morning. Carry on, don't worry, you're not in.
No.
So yes, timely. Oh, sweet. So yes, thank you so much for joining me today for this chat. As I say, I'm currently sitting just in the shade, but this beautiful blue sky. We go up to the blue sky.
Oh, no.
And we are about to go and head to the beach for some slightly chilly around the edges, but stomping in water and enjoying some space and sky and air. So thank you for joining me today. It's been a really lovely way to start this bank holiday weekend in the UK, and wish you both brilliant times ahead exploring your practices. Thank you again for being part of ArtCan. It's just been lovely to meet you both. I know it's virtually, but we will hopefully in real life soon as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, have great weekends. Good luck, everybody. And yes, like I say, we are closing applications to become an ArtCan artist tomorrow night. So it's your last weekend to be able to apply for spring. We will open again in the autumn. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have great weekends, everybody. Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.